Israel's top court has ruled that the government is failing to provide sufficient food to Palestinians held in Israeli jails. The three-judge bench has ordered authorities to take steps to improve their nutrition. Thousands of Palestinians have been held in Israeli jails for years, many without trial. The rights groups say nearly 10,000 are currently detained. That number has drastically risen since Israel launched its war on Gaza. Let's discuss the legal aspects of all of this with Neve Gordon, a professor of human rights and international humanitarian law at Queen Mary University in London. Good to see you, Neve. So how purposeful do you think this failure to provide Palestinian prisoners with even the basic level of existence in Israeli jails actually is?
Well, first, let me clarify that Israel is now holding 11,000 Palestinian political prisoners in its jail, among them 3,500 in administrative detention without trial, 2,500 unlawful combatants that are in limbo, 400 children and 50 women. And it has been using against these prisoners a policy of starvation and torture since October 7th. It's changed its nutritional policies, not allowing Palestinians to buy their own food, cook their own food, but actually giving them food that is insufficient. We've already had a 17-year-old boy die of starvation, and many of those that have been released in the past months have lost considerable weight and discuss and tell us about how food has been used as an instrument against these prisoners.
So you underlined my question there, that you believe that this is absolutely deliberate. So what is the Israeli government legally obliged to do when it comes to this ruling by the Supreme Court in the country, when it comes to the care and treatment of those in detention?
So the ruling, on the one hand, is important because it does say that the government has been using food as a weapon against the Palestinians, and yet it is a convoluted ruling because the Supreme Court judges did not say that there was a policy of starvation, even though the minister Ben Gvir has said that he will use food in order to basically control and punish the Palestinian prisoners. It did not come out with clear guidelines to the prison authority on how to change its policy. And finally, it did not say anything about the discrimination between Palestinian political prisoners and criminal prisoners, because the food policy is not directed against criminals who have been receiving adequate amount of food, while the Palestinian political prisoners have been basically starved. Now, discrimination of this kind is clearly illegal, and Israel has clearly been violating the Third Geneva Convention, which deals with the treatment of prisoners during war.
So you're saying basically that the Israeli authorities are committing war crimes, and if they don't change their ways, irrespective of the Supreme Court ruling, they would be potentially facing extra charges somewhere down the line of, once again, committing war crimes against Palestinians behind bars.
Absolutely. What we see here is the attempt to humiliate and punish political prisoners, which is an egregious violation of international humanitarian law and human rights law. And I should say that by using starvation as a weapon against these prisoners, it is also a violation of the Torture Convention, which is a non-derogable convention in terms that Israel is not allowed or permitted in any way to torture prisoners. And the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem has documented exactly how these prisoners are being tortured and being starved as they are held in Israel internment.
Neve, I know that Israel Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir lashed out after Sunday's ruling on X. He basically described everybody who's a Palestinian in jail as, quote, a terrorist, and that they would continue to, quote, enforce the minimum conditions required by law on, quote, imprisoned terrorists. I mean, a few weeks ago, we saw images of perhaps the most high-profile Palestinian prisoner, Marwan Barghouti, being taunted by Itamar Ben-Gvir. I mean, Barghouti, as we all know, is a Nobel Prize nominee. He hasn't been seen for many years, so it came as a big shock to many, including his wife, to see him looking so thin and so gaunt, while Itamar Ben-Gvir wagged his finger in the man's face. What do you think is going on here? Who was Itamar Ben-Gvir performing to in this exchange?
So first of all, let's put it that the Israeli government itself, that one says that only 1 in 4 of the prisoners it has were militants. So Ben-Gvir is lying. And then Ben-Gvir went to visit Marwan Barghouti in order to humiliate him, and through his humiliation to humiliate the Palestinian people. Ben-Gvir is a bully. He has a lot of soldiers and security personnel around him, and is trying to bully the Palestinian people and make them bow down, and to show that even their political prisoners and their leaders that are in jail will be humiliated by the Israeli government. This again is in contravention to international law, and I do hope that the prosecutor in The Hague will issue an arrest warrant against Ben-Gvir, both due to his statements, genocidal statements, and his policy of torture and starvation in Israeli prisons.
As you say, further examples of possible war crimes happening right in front of our eyes. Neve Gordon, a pleasure to have you on Al Jazeera. Many thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Don't miss out and get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.